Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Storytime English. I am so happy you are here with me today. Take a deep breath, let your body relax, and let this story carry you gently across time. Now, imagine a girl. She is about 10 years old. She lives in a palace, but this palace does not feel like a home. It feels like a prison. She is never allowed to be alone. She cannot walk downstairs without someone holding her hand. She has no friends her own age. The adults around her tell her what to eat, what to wear, and what to think. She is lonely. She is sad. And she is afraid. But one day, this girl will wear a crown. She will rule the largest empire the world has ever seen. Her name will become an entire era of history. Her name was Victoria. And this is her story. Stay with me, because this is a story about what happens when a crown falls on the smallest shoulders in the room. The year was 1819. On the 24th of May, in Kensington Palace in London, a baby girl was born. Her parents named her Alexandrina Victoria. Her father was the Duke of Kent, a son of King George III of England. Her mother was a German princess named Victoria of Saxe-Coburg. Victoria's father was a large, cheerful man. He loved his baby daughter. He was proud of her. He called her his little princess. But when Victoria was only 8 months old, her father caught a cold. The cold turned into a serious illness, and he died. Just like that, Victoria would never remember him. She would never know the sound of his voice or the warmth of his arms. She would grow up without a father, in a palace full of rules and silence. Her mother was now alone in a foreign country with a baby daughter. She was German. She did not speak much English. She had very little money. The family was in debt. She was afraid and unsure about the future, and into this fear stepped a man named John Conroy. Conroy was an ambitious official in the royal household. He was clever, and he was hungry for power. He saw an opportunity. If young Victoria ever became queen, whoever controlled Victoria would control England. So Conroy and Victoria's mother created a system of strict rules for raising the child. Historians call it the Kensington system, and it was designed for one purpose: to make Victoria completely dependent on them. Victoria was never left alone, not for a single moment of the day or night. She shared a bedroom with her mother until the day she became queen. She could not walk downstairs without holding someone's hand. She could not meet visitors without her mother present in the room. She could not read a book that had not been approved first. She was not allowed to play with other children unless her mother was watching. She ate her meals in silence. She was taught to sit still, speak softly, and obey. She kept a diary, and in those early pages, you can feel her loneliness. She wrote about her lessons, about the weather, about small things. But underneath the careful words, there is a girl who is aching for a friend, aching for freedom, aching for someone who sees her as more than a future queen. Her only real companion was a small spaniel dog named Dash. She loved that dog with all her heart. She dressed him in little jackets. She played with him for hours. In a palace full of people who wanted to use her, Dash was the only one who wanted nothing except her love. Can you imagine that? A child who lived in a palace but felt more trapped than free. A princess who had everything except the one thing every child needs: freedom. Victoria was intelligent and strong-willed. She had a sharp temper. She could be stubborn. And as she grew older, she began to understand what Conroy was doing. He was not protecting her. He was controlling her. He wanted her to sign a document that would make him her official advisor when she became queen. Victoria refused. Again and again, she refused, even when she was sick. Even when they pressured her for hours, she would not sign. This was remarkable. She was a teenager. She was alone. She had almost no allies. But she would not give in. And then, on the 20th of June, 1837, everything changed. King William IV died. Victoria was next in line for the throne. She was 18 years old. Early that morning, the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Lord Chamberlain arrived at Kensington Palace. They woke Victoria and told her she was now the Queen of England. According to the story, Victoria came downstairs in her nightgown, her hair still down. She was small, only about 150 centimeters tall. She looked like a child, but she received them calmly and with dignity. One of her very first acts as queen was simple but powerful. She asked for her bed to be moved out of her mother's room. For the first time in 18 years, she would sleep alone. She also ordered that Conroy would never be allowed near her again. The Kensington system was over. Think about that moment. 18 years of being watched, controlled, and told what to do. And in one morning, with a few quiet words, it was finished. The following year, in June 1838, Victoria was crowned at Westminster Abbey, one of the oldest and most beautiful churches in England. Thousands of people filled the streets of London to see their new queen. She rode through the city in a golden carriage. Crowds cheered. Bells rang across the country. She was 19 years old. Victoria was young and inexperienced. The government, the court, the entire empire, they were all watching her closely. Many powerful men doubted her. She was a young woman in a world ruled almost entirely by men. Some expected her to fail. Some expected her to be easily controlled, just as Conroy had planned. But they were wrong. Victoria had something remarkable inside her. She had survived years of isolation and control without breaking. That had made her tougher, more determined, and more independent than anyone expected. In her first years as queen, she relied heavily on the Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne. He was an older man, kind and patient. He had silver hair and a gentle smile. He became like a father to her, the father she had never had. They spent hours together every day. He taught her about politics, about government, about the complicated world of power and diplomacy. He taught her how to carry the enormous weight of the crown. She trusted him completely, and for the first time in her life, Victoria felt safe with another person. But something even more important was coming. Something that would change her life forever. In 1839, a young German prince came to visit the English court. His name was Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. He was Victoria's cousin. They had met before, briefly, when they were teenagers, but this visit was different. Albert had grown into a tall, handsome young man. He was quiet and serious. He loved music. He played the piano and the organ beautifully. He loved science, art, and philosophy. He was everything Victoria admired. And from the moment Victoria saw him this time, she was fascinated. There was a small problem. As queen, Victoria had to be the one to propose. In those days, no man could ask a queen to marry him. She had to ask him, and she did. On the 15th of October, 1839, she called Albert into a private room and asked him to marry her. Albert said yes. Victoria later wrote in her diary that it was the happiest moment of her life. They married in February 1840. Victoria wore a white wedding dress, and this started a tradition. Before Victoria, brides wore many different colors. But after her famous white dress, brides around the world began choosing white. This tradition continues to this day. Their marriage became one of the greatest love stories in the history of the British monarchy. Victoria and Albert were deeply, passionately in love. She wrote about him constantly in her diary. She called him an angel. She said he was the most perfect person she had ever known. Albert was not just her husband. He was her closest friend, her advisor, and her partner in everything. Together they had 9 children, 4 boys and 5 girls. Albert helped modernize Britain. He cared about the poor. He believed in science, in education, and in progress. His greatest achievement was the Great Exhibition of 1851. This was a massive event held in a beautiful glass building in London called the Crystal Palace. The building itself was a wonder enormous, made entirely of glass and iron, shining in the sunlight. People came from all over the world to see new inventions, machines, and works of art from dozens of countries. More than 6 million people visited. It was a celebration of human progress. And it was Albert's vision. During these years, the British Empire grew and grew. It expanded across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. At its peak, it covered about 1/4 of the entire land on Earth. More than 400 million people lived under Victoria's rule. The sun, people said, never set on the British Empire. This meant that the empire was so large that it was always daytime, somewhere within its borders. And at the center of it all was Victoria, a confident, powerful queen who had come a very long way from her lonely childhood. Her name became more than a name. It became a word. The Victorian era, the Victorian age. Even today, when we say Victorian, we are talking about an entire period of history. A time of railways, factories, strict manners, and enormous change. A time when the modern world was being built. How many people can say that their name became a word in the English language? Is that not remarkable? But life, as you may know, does not always move in a gentle direction. On the 14th of December, 1861, Prince Albert died. He was only 42 years old. The doctors said it was typhoid fever, a disease caused by dirty water. Victoria was at his bedside. She held his hand as he slipped away. Victoria was destroyed. She screamed. She cried. She could not believe he was gone. The love of her life was gone. Her partner, her best friend, the one person who had truly understood her. She fell into a grief so deep and so dark that it lasted the rest of her life. She wore black every single day from that moment until her own death, 40 years of black clothing. She kept Albert's room exactly the way he had left it. His clothes were laid out each morning. Hot water was brought for his wash basin every day. She ordered that nothing be changed. She withdrew from public life. She stopped attending ceremonies and events. She refused to appear before her people. She hid inside her palaces, surrounded by photographs and paintings of Albert. The British people, who had once admired their queen, began to grow frustrated. They called her the Widow of Windsor. Some people even questioned whether the country still needed a monarchy at all. Years passed. 5 years. 10 years. But Victoria, slowly and painfully, found her way back. She learned something important. The crown does not wait for you to stop crying. The work does not stop because your heart is broken. She returned to public duties. She learned to rule alone, without Albert beside her. She met with prime ministers. She read government papers. She made decisions about the empire every single day. In 1876, she was given the title Empress of India, adding another enormous responsibility to her already heavy crown. India was the jewel of the British Empire, a vast land of hundreds of millions of people. Victoria never visited India, but she was fascinated by it. She learned some Hindi. She hired an Indian servant named Abdul Karim, who became a close friend and teacher. And as the years passed, she became something she had never expected to be. She became a grandmother, not just to her own grandchildren, but to an entire empire. She had 42 grandchildren. They married into royal families across Europe. People called her the grandmother of Europe. Her descendants sat on the thrones of Germany, Russia, Spain, Norway, Sweden, and more. By the end of her life, almost every royal family in Europe was connected to her by blood. Queen Victoria died on the 22nd of January, 1901. She was 81 years old. She had reigned for 63 years, the longest reign in British history at that time. When she died, the world she had been born into was almost unrecognizable. In her lifetime, she had seen the invention of the train, the telegraph, the telephone, the photograph, and the automobile. She had watched her country grow from a powerful island nation into the largest empire in human history. People across the empire mourned her. Millions of people lined the streets of London for her funeral. She had been queen for so long that most people alive had never known another ruler. An entire generation had been born, lived, and died during her reign. And it all began with a lonely girl in a palace who was not allowed to walk downstairs by herself. And so, my friend, the story of the girl with the heavy crown comes gently to its close. Victoria carried that crown for 63 years. It was heavy. It brought her power, and it brought her pain. It brought her the greatest love of her life, and then took it away. But she never put it down. She carried it through loneliness, through grief, through doubt, and through change. She carried it alone. And you, my friend, are carrying something too. Learning a new language is like wearing a crown that no one else can see. Some days it feels too heavy. Some days you want to put it down. Some days you wonder if it is worth the effort. But you keep carrying it. You keep listening. You keep trying. And every word you learn, every story you understand, makes that crown a little lighter, a little more yours. Victoria proved that the smallest person in the room can carry the heaviest crown, and so can you. Keep carrying your crown. Keep moving forward. Keep learning. This is Storytime English. Tell me, my friend, what part of Victoria's story touched you the most? Was it the lonely childhood, the love story with Albert, or the 40 years of grief? Leave a comment below. I always love to hear from you. There are many more stories waiting right here, and I will be here when you come back. Until next time, take care of yourself and never stop learning.